free to ask the questions that you have, and you can directly raise your hand. And if Brede and Andreas cannot see the hand raised, I can try to interrupt so that we can have the questions directly when you have them. And please don't hesitate to ask the questions, because I think that could also be useful. So, Brede and Andreas, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Brede here, product owner at head of the National Journey Planner and Mobility, and also standardization within Entur in Norway. And today I also have Andreas Tryti. Few words.
Yeah, I'm a team lead at the team at Entur and handling all the data collection and the journey planning systems, and been involved since we started this more than 10 years back.
So please ask a question in the chat or raise your hand. We'll try to follow. Okay. First, a few words about Entur, which is a state-owned company established in 2016. Today, we are about around 500 people, and which of 290 of us is in a digital development. Our vision is to working together to enable simple, sustainable journeys. We have some values that we work with. Fram i skoa, which is similar to Step It Up. På lag, all on board. And lett å forstå, which is clear as a day, something like that. We have three main responsibilities: to collect and manage and share the data from the whole sector, to develop and operate a national common system for trip planning, ticketing, payment, for the whole public transport sector. And we also have some customer channels and also some front desk and call center for mainly the railway part today. And the whole governance of Entur is that this is a mission that is decided and approved in the government, and it's the Ministry of Transport that is setting the direction what we want in Norway, and also secure a lot of the funding needed. Then we have the Railway Directorate, which is the thing in the middle between Entur, where we have all the agreements with what we shall do each year. So Entur is owned by the Ministry of Transport in Norway, publicly funded. And all we do here is based on the MMTIS requirements. So we have this national baseline, the fundament, building national systems. So we have the stop place registry, we have a timetable database or a timetable data flow. We have a fare database, a real-time system to handle all the collect all the real-time updates in the sector. And we have also a data warehouse where we store all the data at Entur, and have a team working also on the reports and analytics of that. On the top of that, we have an infrastructure to reach this kind of data. So we have an open trip planner with a free API to harvest trip plans, information to the stops, and so forth. You can also use that for access to the data in a more easier way. We have a sales service with offers, orders, inventory, checkout and payment, and clearing. And we have a ticketing system for that as well. This is more or less API layer. On top of that, Entur also has some customer channels. We have our Entur app and web page. We have the customer center for the railway. So if you are a customer and have issues with your rail travel in Norway, you call one of the railway operators operating here, but you are talking to our staff from Entur representing the railway operators. We have in Norway 5 ticketing sales operated in 5 stations. So staff from that is from Entur. We have the ticketing vending machines on the railway stations, also operating by Entur. And we have the handheld equipment that the staff on board of the trains are using. Is also that is something that is developed and maintained by Entur on behalf of the railway operators. And as a user of data from Entur, you can access the data from the bottom level here. You have then access to the raw data. Or you can access the data from the service level, the API level, which is a more easier way to access the same data. And as a customer, you can reach the data through Entur's customer center, but also through all the PTA and PTOs as well. And in this meeting today, we are representing the national access point. So this boxes here is part of the map in Norway. The stop place registry, timetable database, fare database, real-time database, and the analytics coming with a revised MMTIS, where also the historical and observed data is part of. And we have, in addition to that, also the OpenShift Planner API. And how we see this sector and how we work is that we want, before it was kind of separated. You had one app for each kind of mode or operator, but we see this as one ecosystem. So we want to work with them all together. So we try to bring those circles together to one and work to harmonize the whole data flow and standardize how it's flowing within our country to have easier access and make it easier to build user-friendly services on top of that. And from the historical part, you heard a lot of things the last years about what we have achieved in Norway. But the history started back in 1869, where Albert Kammermeyer wanted to collect all the timetables in Norway in one single publication. So he started that with bi-weekly printed timetable for the steamboats and the railways in Norway. So that's kind of the beginning. It later became printed yellow pages for timetables, where I come into this in early 2000, where we 4 times per year printed a phone book, thick book, with the timetables 4 times per year. So we collected all the timetables from a lot of sources. And when I started here, and the first years, we were close to 400 different sources in Norway. We had one Norwegian format for that, but it's not a lie to say that everyone used this format in a different way. Sounds similar, doesn't it? So we had to scale up the company to, on daily basis, map the data, because one field in the data meant something else from different data sources. And back then, Norway was separated or divided into 20 regions. And each region county started to take the responsibility for public transport data in their region. So they started to buy a planning tool to collect the data within their county. So within a few years there, we went from close to 400 sources to be a stable around 60. So each of these county took the responsibility for each. It's kind of similar to what some countries in Europe are talking about today, that we have some regional access points. Outside of that, the private operators, cross-regions operators, the railway and the air, and some also ferry water, remain as single sources. And in 2017, the Norwegian government introduced a new reform for the railway sector from one monopoly rail operator, NSB, into tender process. So today we have 4 railway operators in Norway. So in that process, the railway sector was separated into different companies. So we have on rail management, the rail maintenance, the rolling stock administration, and we have one for information and ticketing. So different companies was established: Bane NOR, Spordrift, Mantena, and Entur. And on a different project, also from the funded by the ministry, was a national journey planner project. The aim was to build a new neutral national journey planner, build a new infrastructure for all the relevant data for information, help the PTA PTOs to improve their data quality, and give the PTA PTOs new opportunities and outcomes, and also to the rest of the sector. So this project was funded by the ministry. It was owned by the National Public Road Administration. It was led by Ruter, the capital PTA. Andreas, next to me here, was leading that project on the technical part of it. Project partners was NRE, the company that worked with a printed timetable I mentioned earlier. PTA, PTOs, so all of them was involved in this. The railway operator and the infrastructure manager was part of it. Also the air and all the counties was represented. So we had all the relevant stakeholders in the sector part of this project.
If I may, I would like to ask you, what was the motivation on these 2 elements, the railway reform and this project national journey planner? Or why was it deemed as needed?
It was seen as a need because if you should travel from one region to a different one, the map here, you have to use different apps. And to make that easier, because there are a lot of cross-region travels, both in commute and for private or business trips. So the government wanted this to be easier for the travelers.
Thank you.
So mainly that. Do you have other
There is another question in the chat, and it's about which were the start and end dates for the NRP project.
We will come back to the history on that very shortly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So what was actually happened was that from the NSB, the state-owned company, the ticketing and customer information part was separated out of the company and was part of Entur. The same with the NRP project, which we build further on next year. And also a company that IO working on a national ticketing solutions. So the whole NRP project, interoperable operator, IO, was fully merged into Entur with the sales ticketing part of the railway operator. So this was mainly the same thing.
So that was kind of the background for Entur, but I will also backtrack and give a little bit of insight in how we have worked with the National Journey Planning Project, or the NRP project, because this is basically the full foundation of how we have worked with multimodal travels and using the transmodal standards for NetX and Siri, and everything is basically based on the work in this project. So as Brede mentioned, we have a long history in Norway for collecting timetables and having this in place. However, it is very much focused around the regions. And one of the big problems was that when wanted to do travels across regions, it was very difficult. You had to use different apps. The data was not harmonized. So just a simple thing as a stop place could have many different truths, to put it that way. So it became very difficult. So this was kind of the background when we got an assignment from the Norwegian government to create a national journey planning system for all of Norway. So I was put in to lead this technical work back in 2015. We spent the first year or so doing a lot of analysis. How would we like to solve this? And I think we did some quite bold decisions quite early on, which has shown to pay off. And these things were basically that we saw that we wanted to base this whole new platform on open standards through the transmodal NetX and Siri standards, even though these standards were not really used in a large scale at any place in Europe. We saw that this was what we needed. We wanted to do something differently, what's usually done in this sector, where a lot of, especially public projects, are put out for tender. So we saw that if we really want to create something that will solve all the problems we needed, we thought that in-house development was a better way to go forward. And we also strategically look into all the open source components for technical solution that we think was a very faster and better way forward. And from the very beginning, we looked at this whole project as digital infrastructure for Norway. And so this was very much the starting point when we started this. So this NRP project basically lived as a separate project for the first 2 years, where we did all the analysis. We defined that we wanted to use transmodal, NetX, and Siri as the exchange formats. We started very early on in defining the Norwegian NetX profile to describe how we wanted NetX to be used in Norway. And we also started development both the pipelines for collecting the timetable data and the systems for national journey planning. And I think that one of the things that we did was that since we used a lot of existing open source software, we were able to put up a minimum product quite fast, and we could prove for the whole sector that this was a good way forward. So this was happening while Entur was kind of established. So in 2017, we were put in as kind of a department or a team in Entur and continue as a part of Entur. Moving forward, in 2018, we had basically half of the PTAs in Norway producing NetX timetable data. This is the kind of the core functioning of a journey planning information system, but we also started to work on the Siri profile, which is an important to get the real-time component into this system. And in the later part of 2018, we went live with the very first version of our national journey planning and national journey planning app that Entur is running. Over to 2019, we basically had all PTAs in Norway producing NetX input data, and we also got more and more Siri real-time data information. And we also started to collaborate closer with the other Nordic countries. And this was the same time as the first part of MMTIS was released, and describing that all countries in Norway should have an app using the transmodal format. So the other Nordic countries saw they could adapt the Norwegian profile. Since we are basically all solving the same use case here, we didn't see any reason why they should create a separate profile. So we renamed our Norwegian profile to the Nordic NetX profile. And this has moved on, and since then we have followed this same approach the whole way. We have now integrated Siri data from basically all parts in Norway. We have quite good adoption of the Nordic profile, and we have also have a fully an app up and running, and it's been running quite successfully for many years. We have also done a lot of new development on many of these technical solutions. So typically, we have invested heavily in OpenTripPlanner, which we created as a 2.x version in Norway. This is now a system that's widely deployed worldwide. And we have also, as Brede mentioned in the start of this presentation, that we really don't consider any limits to where we would like to work. We only look at the mission that we want to create, make it easier to use the public transport network, and to make it attractive, we also need to collect and integrate data for other modes of transport. So we have also worked a lot with typically new modes such as e-scooters, city bikes, shared car. We are looking into carpooling, which all have kind of a role in creating an efficient transport network. And I will come back to some of these things a bit later.
A little bit about the numbers of people here. Because in earlier you see that today Entur is 290 people in the digital department doing developments mainly. This work we are talking about here was done by a team with 10 people, both in the NRP project and within Entur up to last autumn. So last autumn we are scaled up, but it's been mainly 10 people from 2015 to 2025.
Yeah, and I think this is also important with the context that a lot of the work that we have done throughout these years has been kind of new things that's not been done before in many cases. So I think also, given that everything we have created is open source, we believe this should be way easier if someone wants to do a similar approach today than what we have been doing for the last 10 years. All right. So just a little backtrack. When we talk about harmonizing and standardizing data, we often come back to very simple questions such as how do you describe a stop place? How do you describe a rail service? How do you update a real-time forecast for any specific journey? Which sounds like very simple questions, but when you are a lot of different parties and data is exchanged between many parties, it can become quite complex to describe this thing in a similar manner. So very early on, we established some principles that we wanted to follow. We saw that a simple thing like terminology is extremely important, because even in a small country as Norway, you could speak to different regions and they would have widely different definitions of the same thing. This becomes it extremely difficult to discuss problems, but it also makes it very difficult to exchange harmonized data. So the fact that terminology and concepts or speak the same language was a very important point that we have been working strategically for many, many years. Of course, we needed a common way to exchange data, given all the different data flows that you need in such a digital platform. And we also saw that if you look throughout Norway or the Nordics or in Europe in general, we are all basically trying to solve exactly the same problem. So we wanted to avoid any national formats or any specific formats for parts of the sector. And we wanted to see how can we collect things in a similar manner and do it on a harmonized way for everybody. And that will make it so much easier to collaborate and exchange data and basically make it easier for the end user. So this is very much the reason why we went all in on using the transmodal conceptual data model as kind of like, I call it the Bible for how things are defined. And then we use NetX for the static data exchange, and we use Siri for the dynamic data change. So we have really went all in on using this for everything in Norway for many, many years. All right, so if you just have a quick look at the Nordic NetX profile. So a profile is basically just a document describing what we will use in our context in Norway. So you could kind of look at the NetX standard as a lot of different building blocks. The NetX standard is very large. It's very many things that can be described in NetX. However, it does become quite complex when you look at the size of it. So in the profile, we basically choose the building blocks that we need for our use cases. And this is what we describe in the Nordic profile, which frames we are using, object, fields, and values. And given the size of NetX, you sometimes have to explicitly describe how data should be interpreted when things are unclear. So this is basically what we have done in the Nordic profile, which is a fairly rich profile description. It contains quite a lot more information what you will have in the European minimum profile. But this is what we need for all the use cases we have in Norway. And of course, within the profile, you have some minimum requirements of data that needs to be exchanged for it to be valid, basically. And then additionally, you have quite a lot of elements that are optional to describe your network even more precise. And I think also our approach for having a living profile is very important. We don't manage to define this perfectly the first time, and we also have new use cases arriving. So we always need to look at the profile. Does it cover what we need? And we want our profile to be quite dynamic in terms of things it supports. So we are looking at this as a kind of a living document. as we work with it. Similar for the Siri data, we created the Nordic Siri profile. Of course, the Siri standard is a bit easier and not as extensive as the NetX profile. However, we still need to define the elements we need, and specifically in the Siri profile, we need to describe which protocols we are using. And in our use case in Norway, we have chosen the Siri ET, the estimates, the VM, which is basically the positioning data, and the SX for deviation messages. So these are basically the 3 protocols we are currently using in Norway. We will probably extend to use FM for facility monitoring going forward, but until now we have basically covered all the use cases we need with these 3 protocols. And as a similar way, we also look at this as a living document, which are adjusted and added on as we need new features to support in our information systems. So if you kind of sum up what we have tried to achieve over the last 10 years, I think this flow of data shows a kind of simplistic view of what we have tried. So basically, if you are any party that are running any public transport service in Norway, you are on the left side of this triple line. You have basically 3 requirements towards Entur. You need to make sure that your stops are registered correctly in the National Stop Place Registry, which we have created. It's a fully NetX-based stop place registry, which have all 70,000 stops in Norway registered. So this is basically everything, both bus and rail, of course, but also all ferries, boats, airports, trams, and so forth. So that's the first requirement. The second requirement is that all parties running any public transport offer needs to exchange all their timetable data in the Nordic NetX profile to us. There's a requirement by law that they need to exchange all data going forward at least 120, so about approximately 3-4 months. When we collect all the timetable data, we have created a quite extensive validation scheme. So all the data we receive is automatically validated. We validate that it follows the NetX standard. We validate a lot of the rules in the Nordic profile, and we also do a lot of logical validation to make sure the data is sane, to put it that way. So this has been kind of a quality gateway that we provide for Norway, making sure all the data we have high quality. And we started off by having quite loose validation scheme, and over many years we have kind of tightened the knot. So little by little we have enforced the quality to be improved in all the NetX data we collect. And thirdly, all the PTAs and PTOs need to exchange all their real-time data. We are collecting all the series streams through ETVM and SX, and we have a similar approach there where we validate all the data we collect in our real-time hub. All the validated data is sent to our Open Trip Planner instance, which have a full overview of everything that happens in the network, or so the public transport network at any time. And here we provide an open API for journey planning. So basically today, all journey planning apps in Norway, so even though Norway is a fairly small country, we probably have somewhere around, I don't know, 10, 15 larger journey planning apps. They are all using our APIs as kind of a backend system. So we can kind of say that we have a national backend system for all journey planning in Norway. This enables us to be sure that all the users of the public transport system in Norway will all receive exactly the same data. And I think this is a huge benefit when it comes to making the public transport system attractive, and people know they can trust the information they get there at any time. So I think we have around 70 different feeds of timetable data into Entur at the moment. We probably have around 90 different feeds of real-time data through Siri. Then we have the API, which serves around 1.5 billion requests per month. This has become a huge system for Norway. And then, of course, all the data we collect and validate is also made openly available at our national access point for Norway. And this is also the only point in our platform where we actually convert NetX and Siri data to the a bit simpler GTFS and GTFS RT data, given this is the input to the big mapping systems such as Google Maps or Bing or whatever. But we have a very clear strategy that we are working in a NetX and Siri first strategy. And then, of course, for some use cases, GTFS and GTFS RT is sufficient and a bit easier to work with. Was there any question?
I
was wondering what the time constraints are from planning until publication of the planned data. How long does it take?
Oh, it takes, from someone deliver us a NetX set, it takes between 30 minutes and 1 hour until it's all deployed in the production environment. It's a fully automatic process, so no, this is something that continuously happens all the time. If that answers your question.
Also into the open trip planner?
Yeah, and out in the NAP as well.
Thanks.
Okay.
There is a question also from Jan.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I see here the open trip planner is a key component of the system for serving clients with the routing solutions. How do you deal with rate limiting and being performant enough for all those, like you mentioned, 10 to 15 journey planning applications? Because this could be quite a challenge.
We have a huge bill at Google Cloud.
Okay, so by using a lot of power.
Yeah. Now, but I think the whole point is that we really look at this as digital infrastructure for Norway. So anyone can access this API free of charge and use it for their purpose. But of course, we do need to make sure that we can ensure a stable service, because it's extremely important. This API is actually defined as a national, what do you call it?
National infrastructure?
Yeah, so it is
a
critical infrastructure component in Norway, because this serves the entire mobility sector for all information. So we have mechanisms for rate limiting where we require that people or consumers identify who they are, and we have specific policies for the major app providers, but everybody can use it for simpler purposes without any registrations or anything. So we really look at this as digital infrastructure.
So it sounds like you have two tracks, one for the applications which have to be up and running for all the time, and the other one for open access serving on the best effort concept.
It's the same system and the same API and the same gateway into it. So, it's important for us that the data should be easily accessible. So we don't want to enforce a registration, so you can use the data without any kind of telling us who you are.
Yeah, this I understand. I just was wondering how you manage the.
Then you have a small amount of limits with requests, and we cut it on this topic.
Okay.
If you are saying I am someone, you don't need to be honest. Then you have more requests available. And for the one that are important users, we adapt the rate limit to fit their needs.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I think a bit of the success we have had for this platform is that we have followed some very clear principles from day one, which I think is extremely important principles if you want to create a digital infrastructure that should work for a whole country and a whole sector. So we have been very clear that we want to define and use all the standards end to end. So the way we look at it is that conversion of data always will mean some kind of degradation of the quality. My personal opinion is that this whole industry around public transport, we are been used to always do a lot of conversions of data between different formats, even if it's national formats or if it's vendor-specific formats. And our experience is that you always end up with some type of degradation of quality. So we have said we don't want that in Norway. So we follow the standards end to end. All data should be visible and available throughout the whole platform. So we really want to make sure that all the parties providing data to us can trust how we handle the data. So there should be no black box elements at all. We don't change any data. And that's the next point here, that we have full self-service and automation, and we have feedback loops and no manual steps at all in the platform. And I think also a very important point that we don't compensate for any quality issues in the data. So we focus on that all errors and all quality aspects of the data should be solved at the source. And we consider that our role in this is to make it as easy as possible for the data providers to understand their quality of data and understand what needs to be corrected. So we provide a lot of validation reports, and we make systems to make it easy for them to understand their current quality that they are providing. And the last point is that
so can you explain the word compensation? You mean you are not trying to fix properly broken data? You do not mean like if the data are broken, we are rejecting any payments for like delayed trains or whatever. You mean you are not trying to fix the data, you are pushing this responsibility to the primary data source?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then we really hold the fact that it should be openly available. So as we mentioned, anyone can use our APIs free of charge with no registration whatsoever. And I think this is about making sure that the threshold for using the data and the services that we are providing through the NAP should be as low as possible. That's our goal. And through this system, we now have something that can handle basically a full journey planning on a national level. So you can basically plan your journey in a fairly long country as we are, and it would work perfectly. And typically Ruter, which is the major PTA in Norway and serves the Oslo region, uses this system for their local journey planning. So it's exactly the same system. Everything is handled one place. We have very good control of the quality that is fed into the system, and the API for journey planning is very flexible, so it can be used both for in national context, but it can also be used in a local context. And I think this is a very good approach for making sure that the end users see the transport network as one consistent network instead of many different parts, put it that way. And this is not the major topic today, but I just want to highlight that we have been also working to take this to the next level. And today we are also doing very much the same with all the mobility operators for shared mobility. So this is collected in a similar manner. We are currently using the GBFS formats instead of NetX for these data. However, everything is done the same way with strong validation of incoming data. We make sure the raw data is available openly. And we also feed it into our journey planning system, so you are enabled to use shared transport, such as e-scooter, as parts of your transit journey. So typically, a first or last mile part of your journey, it's all connected together in the journey planning system that we provide. Wrap things up.
So how this is done with the regulator part is that we have the means of transport pointing to the MMTIS regulation, which is part of the Norwegian law due to the ITS part. So MMTIS is something that is enforced and pushed. This is pointed to a handbook that we have written for the schedule and real-time data. And we have a similar handbook for the fare and product data. This is something that is owned by the Railway Directorate and written in a collaboration between Entur, the Railway Directorate, and the sector. And then we have the profiles, which the handbook is pointing to the different profiles. And we have built the national sales systems and also local sales systems use the national data today. So we have more or less a closed circle here. And for each handbook, we have a handbook group, which both the government, the authorities, the counties is part of this, the PTAs, PTOs, and also some interest groups is part of this handbook group. So this is more or less short how we have organized this work. In international collaboration, we have active contribution to code, or we contribute to others' open source projects around both America and Europe. And the usage of the software that we are aware of is also including some countries in Africa. And what we actually see today is that we have some positive feedback loops. We started with this picture here that the operators and PTAs have their loop and focus. Then we have the government, the county has each focus, and we have our own focus in the national access points, which was not linked, and we tried to send data between them. So what we see today, what we try to achieve is that sending the data from the PTA, PTO to the county, to Entur, we are adding value on the data up to the national access points. But is that something that we should be happy with, or should we take the next step? Which we see, we send the data up, we give some feedback back to the level below, and they add and improve the data. And we do the same on the next level. We add value data to their data. But what we see now today is that we're sending enriched data back to the data source to us, that send the data back to the next level, their source. So we have made a positive feedback loops that gains all of us. Value to the data is added all the way, all the time, and we improve it and we help each other doing that. There have been some questions. Maybe we should stop and take them. Yeah, the links to the handbooks, we can some links to that, yeah.
Yeah, if I may, Peter Berg speaking, Czech here. Since you said that you don't actually enrich the data in the let's say way from the operators to customers. So I think by the enrichment you mean actually feedbacking if something is broken.
Yeah, something is broken. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, information for customer complaints, customer call center, and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
It's mainly that come back from us to our data sources. Yeah. But we also have automatically quality boards. So we measure different kinds of parts of the data, so they can see the data quality score for the real time, for example, where they can drill in and see here is my issues that I should focus on.
Okay, it would be nice if you have a slide to show how these scores or reports look like. It would be interesting to see.
We can try to do that in a different live demo at the end.
Thanks.
Yeah. On the map was blue color.
Yeah, the previous slide showed your international.
Yeah, I think what you can say is that our experience is that there's a lot of myths around open source. What we can say is that our whole platform that we have created the last 10 years in Norway is open source in the context that all technical components are available on our GitHub, and it's possible to fetch a copy of them. However, some of the components we are actively developing together with other parties. So basically, we have weekly meetings. They are contributing with new codes that we share the development. But other parts are just using a copy of the software without any contribution or without any changes to the code itself. So it's just that when it comes to open source, there are many different ways to look at open source. You can be just using a copy of the software, or you can actively develop together with us on the software.
Okay, so I understand that you have provided a rich framework of tools which is open sourced, and those which are in green are simply passive, not passive, but users not contributing back to your system, and the blue one are more active, contributing to what is within.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the most active part, we have a joint common roadmap, and we are also trying to have the same backlog to work on. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
We come back to your question about the quality of the data. And from the contest today, they have also seen the benefit of this results of the National Access Point in Norway, where we collect all the data that I talked about. So they started to use the data themselves, and to achieve that, they asked us, we need this kind of data. And some examples we have for operational, it's way outside the scope of MMTIS, but it's part of the NetX standard. So when they come to us and ask, can you add this operational data to the data sets, to our profile, then we look into it, so that it was possible with the NetX, and we added it to the profile, and we discussed it with the Nordic countries in the Change Control Board, and we added it to the Nordic profile. So in that way, the data sources was able to focus on one data out of the planning tool that they can use for sending to the National Access Point, and also send it to their real-time system or their internal system for planning staff and salary of them. So this also helped our data sources, the PTAs and some of the PTOs, to easier change their internal systems today that was not fully working for them. Previous, they had to send one data to Entur for the National Access Point, different data to the real-time system, and a third data to planning the staff. So by doing this, we help them get in a position. So from before, all of them procured systems or different parts of different systems, which was costly. And a few years ago, they started to collaborate, and for systems that is outside the scope of M2, they started to build and develop them in-house themselves. So on the left side here, you see the countries that is participating on this. On the right side, you see that this tries to illustrate that all regular and mostly used tickets and products in Norway is available to sell through our sales infrastructure. So this is an example of what they actually do. ATB is a county authority in the middle of Norway. They have developed an app and a web store, some school bus service systems, and the web-based version of the app. And the different counties there, Reis Nordland and Fram, are using this white-labeled software. And Reis Nordland has developed a ticketing sales system on board of the buses and ferries. And this is used by ATB and Fram, and is planned to use by others. So in this collaboration, we see that how we made the national access points and the data flow in Norway help the PTAs to do other needed and fun stuff on their behalf. And for the last year, we have started to work with cross-border ticketing. So we have an international approach. It's also something that is coming from the ministry, that they want it to be easier to sell tickets for Norwegians to traveling abroad, and also to sell tickets for traveling in Norway for international travelers. So for this, we have integrated and want to use the NetX data and the zero data from the national access points in our neighboring countries to start here. And we have developed a Nordic marketplace. It's a lightweight tool that we can integrate the NetX data in our trip planner, find travel between somewhere in Norway to Copenhagen. Then we ask, this marketplace is asking our Entur sales system for the price and products to Gothenburg. And from Gothenburg to Copenhagen, we ask Samtrafikken's new booking API. And we can set this together, and the customer can buy one ticket in one go and pay in one currency. And this is scalable, so we can add more sales systems here as well. And today we are in production with Flix and Snelltoget. And we can easily add more as long as it is standardized in the way the API. So we have for the Nordic ticketing and European ticketing the technical part for the multiple public transport ticketing in Norway in place. We see that is our ongoing work in Sweden, Denmark, and Finland to do the same. We have the Nordic ticketing planner technically in place. The cross-border ticketing is more or less solved. But what we lack is the open data that we have talked about earlier, also within the NAPCOR project. So the obstacle is the different profiles that we see, the lack of harmonization of the content. So the content that we see from others have duplicates in the data. And we also assume that the data and the profile in that country is made to fit the systems that they have today. So what we are trying to do in Norway is to work with a profile in a way and the systems in a way that the profile should be independent of the systems, so both the sending and the consuming systems. So what we think we need is a more open collaboration. We need one unified profile, which should be used by all. And I think with the NAPCOR, we are working in that direction. We need a reference validation tool, and we need a reference implementation. So we can secure that when the data is produced, used, we can secure that, hey, this is actually working. And I think this is one of the last slides. Entur is also working with a NEMU project to try to build a living lab for multimodal travel information in the Nordics. And for this, we try to use the NetX data for the Nordic countries. And we try to also add with booking. So more or less try to think roam like home, like you do with your mobile phone, traveling different countries. You just wait a few seconds, sometimes some minutes, then the phone is working in a new country that you have entered. Why shouldn't this work with your transportation app you are using locally? So this is something that we work on and we achieve. In the NEMU project, it is the Nordic Innovation that is funding it. It's ITS Nordic Plus that is running it, and it's Entur developing the corridor from Oslo to Copenhagen. And Matto in Finland is working on the corridor from Finland to Stockholm to Oslo. So I think this was the last slide, yes. So we can take some questions before we official show the data quality report for real time. Collaboration with Iceland. Iceland is something that they are using our open source tools, running their own trip planner solution over there, but there are not much cooperation there. Iceland is part of Nordic Plus, so they are part of the NEMA project. Questions? Not so far. Show the data quality.
Let me just share my whole screen.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned there a few times the Nordic profile and a couple of numbers related to handbook. I just want to make sure what is the level of what is this type of document, the handbook N801 or whatever numbers were present in there. Is this like a national standard or a technical specification which is managed by Entur? How is that? Because it's very important to be aware about how the Nordic profile is governed.
Yeah. The handbook is written by the Railway Directorate and Entur in collaboration. It's the law in Norway is pointing to that handbook. So this is an official document published on the website of the Railway Directorate. And this is a high-level description. Why are we doing this in Norway? How are we doing it? And what kind of standards are used? And who is responsible for each different part of this? And the technical descriptions is part described in the profiles.
But you say described in the profiles, is this the profile is some separate document or it is subject of the handbook?
So you can kind of say that the handbook are the overall kind of business requirements for any party, while they are also pointing to the profile, which is more the technical and implementation requirements for this.
Okay, and my related question, so I see it's the handbook does not cover the complete profile. It's more like motivation and the context around, and the profile itself is independent specification covering structures and these things.
Yeah, that's correct.
My related question is, are all these documents provided also in English or mostly or in half of the cases? How is that?
The handbook is in Norwegian.
By law, we wanted it to be English, but we had to provide it in Norwegian.
Okay.
And the profile is in English only.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I can just tell briefly about how we work with data quality. As I mentioned in my presentation, we are very much focusing on the data quality, and our role is very much to make it easy for the different parties to understand the type of quality they provide. Given we have around 90 different feeds of real-time data, and real-time data can be used for many different purposes. So this makes it quite difficult to give a good overview of what is the actual quality of the real-time data you provide. So typically, if you look at this SIRI-ET interface, its main task is basically to continuously provide new estimates to any journey running. However, it can also be used for cancellations or additional journeys or other more detailed use cases. So to be able to provide kind of an overview, we have created a quite detailed quality dashboard for all the different parties that provide their SIRI-ET data. as you can see here. And it's an overall score, and then we have broken it down to 4 different elements to create this overall score. So it's the kind of an evaluation of the content, a bit of the consistency and coverage of the data, how the data is delivered in terms of frequency and this part, and the completeness is also. So we have kind of broken it down to different elements, and based on this, we can provide an overall score for this feed, and then you have a full overview of all the different parties that we receive Siri IT data for in Norway. And this is kind of both used as a wall of fame as well as a wall of shame. And even though some controversy around this is basically just describing what is the type of quality the end user will meet in their daily journey app. And we really try to just make understanding that we are just providing information of how would an end user expect their data to be presented, and this is just the truth basically. But it's very efficient because you get a very clear understanding of, okay, where am I as a PTA placed in the terms of the quality I provide, and it's easier to discuss this when we meet the different PTAs to help them to understand what are the issues with their current data sets and what can they do to improve it. So this is an open site. Everybody can just have a look at it. It also have very clear specifications in terms of how the different elements are measured. So it's quite trustworthy as a way of showing the quality of the data. So we have had very, very good experience using this. Of course, it's a bit bittersweet for someone to see that they are placed very low, but as long as we are able to describe why they are placed with a low score of their data, I think everybody can accept that this is the current state and this is what we need to work with. So we had very good experience with this type of approach.
So the question to you, Jan, is described there. So if you go to the content evaluation, you see a description here, how we calculate it, and they can farther down in the list see what's the pain points. And they're also possible on the left side to compare it with a different time period. So we have tried to be open here, so they can use this as a tool to also improve themselves.
And we also have some traction of how this have improved over time, so we can kind of follow. Since we released this measurements in the fall of 2023, we can track the kind of improvements that we have made in our scoring for the national data. So it's a very efficient way of doing this.
And the number you see on this screen today is something that EU Commission is asking for now and then. So we just made it open here.
Yeah, so the calculation is fully automated. So it's described exactly what type of math that are basically used. And when it comes to security issues, like basically all the Siri data is open data, so we don't have to take very many precautions on this side. We just want to produce kind of like an overview of what we see. So, but of course we have a lot of security elements that are taken care of in terms of our systems. That's a whole different presentation, I think.
Yeah. There is a question from Eve about the sizing of the intermodal connection times. What do you mean exactly, Eve?
I mean, when you develop an API to get the time from A to B, you need to take into account connecting times at stations which are intermodal, and who is responsible for that? Is there any liability if the connecting time is not fit for the real conditions of implementation?
Yes, sure. We use the map data for walking, both inside the stations and also outside in the free air. So we calculate the walking distance between two keys, where you leave the vehicle and where you enter the next one. And we add 2 minutes in a security gap there. So what planned NetX data and the updated real-time delays and cancellations influence this calculation. So this is automatically done in the routing. So we don't, and the clients have easily accessible tools within their apps to register that I like to have shorter connections, so I can remove the 2 minutes extra time, or I want to have longer connection times. Then this is sent into the API, and we take care of that in the calculation.
But I think the point here is that by default, our journey planning system does not take into consider any rules, business rules from a ticketing perspective. It just provides results. How can you manage this connection in the real world? And then if some parties wants to have specific business rules implemented, they need to do extra care of this in either the app or in providing specialized API requests to the journey planner. If that makes sense.
And what we are dealing in now is also we store all the real-time data, and we have started to show in some of the clients that between two legs, we start to show that the first leg normally is 10 to 15 minutes delayed. So we can show that kind of information to the customers, so they can take a better insight decision with a more insight. That the interchange that we are showing them may be very, very risky. Question about open source about this quality measure tool. I'm not sure we are that is open source today. It's mainly something that we want to achieve, but we want to collaborate with you there. Yeah. So it's mainly because it's so attached to how we store our real-time data. Yeah. Other questions, comments? What are your thoughts? Can your country see a benefit of collaboration here? We are highly welcoming new passive and active contributors here.
How can we collaborate on the data quality components?
So we have created quite extensive validation tools that are open source, both for NetX and Siri data. There are already many who look into these tools, given that they are quite flexible. Of course, by default, they are kind of tuned into the Nordic profile as of now. However, the way they are developed is to make them quite configurable. So it's possible to configure this validation tool for your specific purposes. So this is a strategic way of development that we have been working on, which we hope makes it easy for others to also use these type of tools.
Some figures about the cost and implementation. What we talk about here today, it's open source, so it's available to start to use and also contribute. But it's mainly been developed by and maintained by 10 people.
So we are the only cost we have is the cost of the people plus cost of a hosting environment. So that's basically the two factors. And when we have been 10 people doing this in Norway over 10 years, you need to take into consideration that none of these tools that exist today were existing when we started. So I would expect this to be a way easier way forward to get started today. However, I think one of the costs that are difficult to measure is that to be able to achieve something like this, you need to spend a lot of time with the different parties to make them understand that doing things in a common way might be investment in the beginning. However, it will be a huge benefit in the long run. That's always a difficult cost to put some numbers around, because we have invested many hours in sitting down with the different PTAs and kind of make them understand that we all will benefit from working together instead of doing it basically reinventing the wheel over and over again. There are very many topics touched upon today, and as said, we have a quite extensive platform. If anyone is interested to do kind of a deep dive into any of these parts, even though it's the validation tool, or it's the journey planner, or it's measurements for quality in some way, we are happy to set up a separate session if anyone want to do that. So please just contact us if that's of relevance.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. But indeed, thank you very much, Andreas and Brede, for the comprehensive presentation. I think it was really good, well structured and clear. And for sure, the idea about this is to have it and to build on this on the slide so that we can have documented the good practice and that we can share it. And then afterwards, of course, for the different national access points can reach out to you when they are interested in going like a bit deeper and provide future collaborations, which of course can be interesting for you and also for the other national access points and the main idea behind NAPCOR. So I think there is another question, one last question from Eve about your views about the EU entity for future EU implementation. Other than that, I think that's it.
Yeah, what do you talk about the EU entity? The future of NAPCOR and next phase of NAPCOR, is that the question?
Well, in fact, it's the question about the split between SENS and ELEC and NAPCOR and maybe something else, which would host an EU data registry. Have you? It's an open point for the moment, of course. But do you have already a clear view about what would be suited from your point of view?
It's a huge question on 2 minutes left. So not entering into a huge political difference here. From Entur side, we focus, and also that is also required from the Ministry and the Railway Directorate, supporting us and pushing us in that direction. So we work on do the standardization within the SEN ecosystem. Try to help the different national access points produce a usable cross-border NetX and zero data. And we focus on try to do that within NAPCOR. And try to separate, so we are not doing standardization work in NAPCOR and not doing national access points work within SEN. So because we need different resources, and we are clear that the work that is mostly needed now is standardization work with the new parts, new work within SEN, that all the transport parts should be lifted to European norms. We need a joint common profile across Europe. It's definitely something that we need to do the technical part with the technical experts. And we are clear that the technical experts is underfunded today. So we need to find a solution that together. And we need to tell the same story across Europe. And for that, NAPCOR can be a powerful tool to achieve that. So we in each country, national access point is asking for the same thing. We have example now from the Snelltoget, who is operating from this summer from Oslo, from the northern part of Sweden, through Denmark, Germany, and to Austria. And they have been asked to deliver 5 different versions of NetX. We should help them to get that one NetX version that can work in each country. So, and we need to get the SEN work and the NAPCOR work work better together than it is today. Yeah. That's the final word for today.
Yes, thank you so much. I think it's 11 already. Thank you so much for your time, and I will send also the notes. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.